What's going on, everybody? My name is Nick.
My name is Dave.
And this is the Deep Dive, and we are officially in our Lenten series, which was actually maybe a little different than the normal Lenten series that we'd go jump into.
Yeah, it is. It is different than what we've done in the past. We have done some book studies. We did, I think, The Walk, which is the Adam Hamilton book. Last year, I think it was last year, we did the Way of the Cross or something like that. This one, the Stevens Ministry came to me a while back, a couple months, and had this book they wanted me to read. They had studied, called The Gift of Empathy, and they were suggesting it that maybe it'd make a good book study for the whole church and, maybe the season of Lent. And my first reaction just hearing that was like, I don't know if it fits for Lent. But then once I read it and got into it, I was going like, man, I think this is the perfect series for the season of Lent. So I'm really quite excited about doing this series. I think a number of our Sunday school classes, maybe not every one of them, is doing it. And, to be honest, I'm not like following it chapter by chapter. I'm just using it as a resource. But it's kind of inspired me to find stories of Jesus that are throughout the Gospels of Jesus and just his ministry and the empathy that he sort of demonstrated and modeled for us. And so that's where we headed, and we did the first one. There'll be 6 total, I guess, as we get through the season of Lent. And so that's where we started, and that's what we'll be talking about today.
I love it. Well, let's jump in.
Let's do that.
Well, Dave, I know sports-wise, some of the main stuff we normally talk about is over, but did you happen to get to watch that USA-Canada game or any highlights from it at least?
I've seen the highlights. It was going on during church.
Wild.
And there were people, I almost said, like, I need a score update because it was 1-1 at the time the church started.
Yeah.
And so, I got home from church, and they were playing the national anthem on the medal stand.
Yeah.
And so, what a great thing. It's been 50 years.
Yeah, 46, I think,
40,
exactly.
man, it's incredible.
Wild.
So great for them. I don't really care much about hockey.
Yeah.
But, when it's in the Olympics, I start caring about sports that I've never...
Yeah. You're not really looking at curling otherwise or whatever.
Right, or, all the skiing stuff they've got, but even the ice skating, And so, it was a good Olympics. We had the most medals, I think, the gold medals that the U.S. has ever got. Norway always runs away with it because that's all they ever do up there. But, that was great. Both the women and the men and won. And I saw there was a mother... I don't know if you know this. There's a mother that had a kid on both teams, both the men's and the women's.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and she was being interviewed in some program I saw, and she's delightful. She's going to be the new Mama Kelsey.
Oh, really?
She was great. Yeah,
she's taking over that mantle.
She's like everybody's mother. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well. Yeah, I think I enjoy the Olympics much more now as I've gotten older than I did when I was younger. And, it's like a lot of these sports, I kind of wonder at some points now, it's like, well, how do you get into some of them? Like, where do you start? Like, I think about curling. It's like I've never seen, like, a curling practice center or something like that.
The one where they get, like, they're, like, laying down on this, like, sheet of ice that goes down like this, looks like a tube thing, looks like a water slide with ice. It's like, where can you go do that in Georgia?
Yeah, right. I think that's kind of what I mean. Is like, it feels like there might be like niche communities or niche areas where this stuff is like centralized, but I've never seen or heard. But I'd like to go try it just to like, I don't need to do this professionally. Just let me go down.
It looks like fun.
Yeah, it does look like fun.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm sure that it's a lot more complicated than I give it credit for.
Yeah, we probably hurt ourselves somehow. But
exactly.
Anyway, we're here to talk about this sermon that you preached. I think you titled it Heart to Heart for this first one.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of playing around with it. It really is the gift of empathy.
Yeah.
I was trying to do something that would set the series apart, but it's about the gift of empathy. Each week we'll look at a story of Jesus modeling empathy for us. And so last week, we had one, and I'll read it to us.
Love it.
These are not long stories, and so that can, I think, help us have context as we have our little chat here.
As we
Okay. So this comes from
down.
Matthew's Gospel.
Yep.
And it says that Jesus went through all the towns and villages, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom, and healing every disease and sickness. And then it says, this is the key verse. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them because they were harassed and helpless like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into his harvest field. And so, this first one, I really kind of zeroed in on that phrase, when he saw the crowd. And we talked about the Jesus who sees. He sees people. He sees the crowd. He sees individuals, even though in the text it's telling us how busy he was.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted to get close to Jesus. He was healing people. He was preaching people. He had this mission. He was beginning his ministry. But then when he saw the crowd, he had compassion on them.
Yeah.
And I will be honest with you. I don't always see people.
Yeah.
And I mean, really, we talk about, you are seen. Sometimes we say that with people, we want you to know that we see you.
Yeah.
But I say that, but I sometimes wonder if I really do that, because it can become a blur. I mean, I think it's well known I'm kind of an ADHD person, but like in church or, even just out in the community, and I see people, sometimes it's just a blur, and I'm walking past people. Sometimes I'll be thinking about something else, maybe even on Sunday morning out in the Welcome Center. I don't know that I always see people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
I 100%. And I think sometimes as leaders, especially on Sunday mornings, you and me, we can kind of get caught up in the, I got to get this done, or I got to make sure this is working or whatever. And we're walking past 30, 40, 50 people at a time, and not seeing that. And, I think when I read the scripture, it's like he sees the need. He sees what's going on in the area around him.
He sees the story.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I said on Sunday morning, everybody sitting there, everybody watching on there, everybody we see, there is a story behind every face.
Correct.
And we sometimes, if we're just thinking people as just as a big blob or a cloud, are not specific, or we lump everybody into a certain category or something. We fail to see the story and see them as human beings with a story, with needs, with burdens that that we as a church, we as the hands and feet of Christ need to be attentive to.
Yeah.
And so one of my first points was empathy begins with attention. Yeah. Empathy begins with attention. We need to pay attention, and lots of times that means slowing down and not being in such a hurry. I talked a little bit about how a lot of the holiest moments and sacred moments, some of the deepest and best ministry that I've done hasn't been something that was planned. It was a holy interruption.
Yeah.
I mean, we spent an hour this morning in staff meeting putting stuff on the calendar. We're making plans, but along the way, these interruptions happen where there are, we get caught up in something in the story, and that's really where ministry happens.
Oh, 100%. And, speaking from my youth ministry days and stuff like that, you could have the most planned out retreats and all that, but it never takes place of that conversation you had outside while everybody else is running around playing laser tag or manhunt or something like that, not laser tag. Like that, just being able to sit and talk one-on-one with somebody, it feels like that's where like this relationship and this empathy and all this stuff, it kind of comes to a head, is like just in these small spots, these small pockets.
Yeah. And one of the stories that I shared on Sunday was told to me by a teacher, and she had come to me asking me to pray for a kid in their classroom. She taught, I think, middle school. I don't know. But anyway, and this kid, she described as being, just an average kid, and, but she noticed a difference in him. He was an average student, he wasn't the most popular kid in the classroom, but she just noticed that something was not quite in sync with her. He wasn't like falling way behind, but his work just wasn't up what it was. He didn't seem to be interacting as much. And so she had talked to other people on their team. They was going, "Oh, that's just a teenager, and he's just teenagers, and they're interested in video games or girls or whatever." And she said she went to him and said, "Look, you don't have to tell me what's going on with you, but I want you to know that I see you, and if you ever need to talk to somebody, I'm here." And then he opened up about what was going on in his life, and found out that his parents were separated, and it was just the chaos of that, and the sadness of that, and stuff was affecting him, and he cried, and she was able to be with him, so didn't have the concern, and that happens everywhere. All the time. There are people that are here at the church, out in the community, that have stories and stuff that's going on with them that we may not, we need to be able to have those empathetic eyes that see. And I think that empathy, I think some people are kind of wired up to be naturally empathetic, but I do think it's a skill set that all of us can grow in. I think it can be a spiritual discipline, and it begins with this sort of way of seeing people that is driven and shaped by love.
To kind of give even like small example of at least what this sounds like to me is I noticed in church that there's sometimes, we kind of get caught up sitting in our own sections, in our own places and stuff like that. And I had a gentleman come talk to me one time and was like, "I see somebody come in late every single week and I could just never get over there to talk to him." I said, "Well, go sit over there. Like, go sit where they come in at." And they're like, "You know what? I will."
Yeah.
And because he wanted, for some reason, he saw that interaction, or saw that there was a potential interaction there, and he felt compelled to do that. You know what I mean? And he made the change in his own normal spot where he sits with the normal people, and said, "I'm going to go sit over there." And they have a conversation almost every week now.
So that's somebody who's seeing. That's a great example. That person's coming in, sitting by themselves, coming in late. That's a great story of somebody being empathetic. I think sometimes in our conversations too, and I shared an example from my own life, and not that I get it right. Most of the time, I probably don't get it right. But just in making hospital visits, which I've been doing for all my ministry, and I've learned to ask questions. And I think that's one way that we can grow in our empathy of understanding. Because if you tell most people, if you're just having a casual conversation with them and ask them how they're doing, then they're going to say, "Oh, I'm fine." And it's almost like we've been patterned to that. "Hey, how's it going, Nick?" I mean, you could be having the worst day in the
but I'll be like, "Yeah, I'm all right. I'm good."
People just say that, but ask a different kind of question. And I was seeing this guy, and he kept saying he was fine. It's going to be fine. I think he was trying to convince himself it's going to be fine. And he was having a surgery that is a surgery that's done a lot. And so it wasn't one that, to be perfectly honest, I was really concerned about. I knew it was a procedure that's done. But when it's happening to you, there's no such thing as routine surgery.
Yeah.
And so he kept on saying he was fine. And I said, "You keep saying that, but you don't seem fine." And then he opened up to me about his dad had died at the exact same age that he was. And, he had, it'd been 20 or 25 years earlier, and he had always in his mind thought that's how many years I've got. And suddenly this was happening to him. And he said, "Pastor, I'm scared to death." Yeah. And so, but it just took asking that additional question. And we don't have to be rude about it and intrusive about it. If people want to share, they will.
Yeah.
But I do think sometimes we need to ask better questions if we want to really participate in being an empathetic person. Does that make sense?
100%. Yeah. I always go back. I went to the Czech Republic and did a youth camp there, and I was walking by one of the girls, and I said, "Hey, how are you?" And she kind of snapped back at me and kind of went, "Do you really want to know, or are you like some of the other Americans I've met who just are like being a little like, it's just, that's the greeting as opposed to like wanting to know. I was like, oh no, I really want to know. And we sat down and talked for a little bit, but it is sometimes like that.
Right, yeah. And, there's places and times for it. You know, it may not be in the grocery store aisle, although it could be.
Yeah.
But making appointments with people, say, look, I really care about what's going on with you. I'm going to follow up with you. And so, they sound like simple things, but they're really deep things. When we practice the way of Jesus, when we try to grow in our empathy and see people. One of the things that I pointed out, this passage that I read to us just a second ago, I've heard that all my life. Lots of times, because it says, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. I've heard that used in terms of evangelism,
right?
And it is.
Got to get more people.
It is, but you got to get more people.
Yeah.
And there people are out there. The harvest is plentiful. But here's the thing, in this context, Jesus looking out and seeing the people and feeling compassion for them, because he said they were harassed like sheep without a shepherd. And so as he saw them, he cared for them and loved for them and was empathetic for them. Those are the kind of workers that he is looking to send out. In this context, I really do believe it is about, like, we need more empathetic people going out into the harvest and reaching this crowd that is lost, that is, like sheep without a shepherd. So, if we're going to practice the way of Jesus, if we're going to follow him as his disciples, then, we need to grow in that discipline ourselves. And I did give a few practical suggestions that came from the book.
Right.
The first one we've already talked a little bit about, just slowing down.
Yeah.
We just, I don't know about you, but I live my life at about 70 miles per hour.
Yeah.
And,
especially, well, there are definitely seasons. I feel like there's like 2 or 3 times in the year where it just feels like everything's going all the time, and I have a hard time.
I'm looking for a
down.
slow season.
Yeah. Yeah.
It seems like they're one after another. But yeah, if we're gonna be with people, sometimes it means like allowing ourselves to be interrupted.
Yeah.
Excuse me. The other thing that from the book was making eye contact. And I do try to make eye contact with people, but I do know that sometimes I look past people.
Yeah.
I know I learned from a friend of mine who's another preacher who's kind of wired up like I am, and he said, like, a lot of times when he's like, you're outside and shaking hands as they come by, that he will hang on to the handshake until he has made eye contact with somebody and done that. So, and I try to do that sometimes. So if you're listening to this and I do that to you, I'm not being weird.
You've been called out.
Yeah. So, because like sometimes I'll be thinking about something I'm going to do, or if it's Sunday morning, some problem I've got to solve, or somebody just came in my line of vision. So, making eye contact with people when we're talking to people, I think it sounds like a simple thing, but it is. I think it really does make a difference.
It's a practical thing that just shows people you fully have given them your attention, even if just for a moment.
Yeah, for sure. And then the other one I think we've also talked a little bit about is asking better questions.
Yeah.
Asking better questions and allowing ourselves to do that, and also I think allowing the silence. Sometimes. It takes a while. Yeah. And so being comfortable with just being with somebody and letting them.
Yeah, because sometimes it's like that person trying to convince themselves to open up or to not open up. You know what I mean? Like there's sometimes that internal conflict of like, do I really want to get into this here? Or I'm trying to hold it together so I don't want to, because I don't know if you've ever been in that situation where you're like, so I ask you something and you're like, I'm trying to hold it together. But as soon as you say something, like it all like just blows out. You know what I mean? Like it just kind of boils out of you a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, and I think there's a balance of like knowing, sensing the spirit of what questions to ask and what questions to not ask and when to push and not to push. Yeah. And I know myself, there's times like if I've been going through a season of grief or something that I really wasn't ready to talk about something.
Yeah.
But I was always appreciative of people who were there and willing to listen.
Yeah. I find a good strategy is just asking more open-ended type questions instead of the yes/no questions. And because you can kind of tell even still how somebody responds. It sometimes might be hard in a yes/no circumstance, but in a space where it's open, you might can kind of go, okay, they're not ready to talk about it. It just kind of gives you more context behind that.
All right. Well, you'll notice our light just went out. We're going to Hickory light. So, all right. So we're back. We had a little lighting problem there, but as we're getting into the end now, let me just put a bow on this. We've had this scripture of Jesus seeing the people. That was the major focus I wanted to say. Jesus saw the crowd, but not just the crowd. He saw individuals. He saw stories. He saw them hurting people, like sheep without a shepherd. And then that commission to us, there's a harvest out there of people, and we're asking God to send, these people into the harvest to be with the people. And so there is this harvest of people who need someone to see them. And that's you and me and anyone listening, And so as we begin this Lenten journey together in trying to grow in our empathy, we need workers in the harvest who will see the people, who will notice and care and come alongside. And, I'm real excited about where this series is going to take us. I'm thankful to Carolyn and Jenny and the Stephen ministers who are bringing this to us, and I think we're all going to grow from it.
Yeah, and I think it's cool to think about it as a charge to us, because it kind of unifies us as a vision and creates this kind of larger net to kind of catch or to kind of put out there so that we can show this community, that we're empathetic people and see it for where it is.
So I have had a question, because I referred to the book, and I do know that not every Sunday school class is doing it, and not everybody in the church goes to Sunday school.
Yeah.
And people have asked me questions about how to get a copy of the book. And this is not a book that you can get off like of Amazon. You can get it over the internet, but you have to do it through Stephen Ministry. I do think that there are some extra copies that are being ordered, and so let's just see. We might can make available some of those on Sunday, but we will make those available, or at least access of how you can order one, and they take 6 or 8 days to get here. Coming through that, it's not like Amazon where you're going to get it the next day.
Tomorrow.
But it's a great book. It's a pretty easy book to read. It's very, very practical. But if someone is interested in doing that, just drop us a note in the notes, and we'll make sure that happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So as just we always kind of wrap up, just remind the conversation, anything that you'd like to add, drop it in that comment section below. If you want a book or something, we'll see if we can find one. You can drop it in there as well, and we'll see what we can come up with and how to make that happen. But it's exciting that people are excited about this study,
Sure.
and as we kind of said at the top, it is maybe a little different, but almost really spot on too for what we need to hear. You know what I mean?
I think we're at a time in our culture and country that empathy and
100%.
hearing others and being with other people and being able to do that is a much needed skill and attribute that needs to be going on. So
and it's a beautiful thing to watch.
Yeah.
Look at these stories of Jesus in that lens too.
Right.
See more of how he did that within the context he was in. So well, Dave, thank you for bringing this to us, and guys, thank you for tuning in. And you have anything to add?
Nope.
All right, we'll catch you guys next time.
All right. God bless everybody.
Take care.